Welcome to the Wildcast Podcast, coming to you from Wildcast Studios, with your hosts Adam Lund and Jeremy Boucher.
Welcome into the Wildcast Studios for the draft preview episode of the Wildcast Podcast, your unofficial voice for all things Moncton Wildcats. As always, finishers, I am your host, Adam Lund, and I am joined by your favorite co-hoster, Mr. Mock Draft, Mr. Jeremy Boucher. Buddy, A, how's the mock drafts coming? And B, how was your birthday weekend?
Mock drafts. I've got. I just wrapped up one with the fine folks at Puck Preps, Braden, and helped out with Andrew Piercy and Christian Cote, which was fun. It was nice to be invited to kind of assist those experts with their picks.
Not those experts.
Wow,
you are an expert, my friend. This is your season. You're the draft season guy.
I guess it's something I look forward to every year, and I'm getting pretty pumped up about it.
Yep.
It's right around the corner. We're
less than a month away.
Yeah, 3 weeks. 3 weeks away here, and it's gonna be fun. Other than the birthday was on Sunday, and my selfish side, of course. I had my birthday on Mother's Day. Very selfish of me to do that.
As Dobson said, you're the only guy that could hijack Mother's Day for your birthday.
Yeah, but I tried not to have the day about me.
You.
It was there's more there's important women in my life that take more. The Mother's Day means more than my birthday. So I made sure it wasn't about me. And I got gifts, but other than that, it was good.
Got gifts, gave gifts.
Got gifts, gave gifts.
What did you get Megan? What did Avery get Megan?
So I kind of got Avery got her a card.
Did Avery get anything?
Avery got her a card. I bought a gift, so I bought her something for the bathroom.
Nice. Did Avery make something from school? Or
yes.
just,
It was like a Mother's Day card.
Yeah.
But I got her a thing for the back of the toilet that says, "Have a nice poop." So it's a double-sided thing where you can kind of put your toilet paper in it. So on one side it says "Have a nice poop," and the other side says "Please remain seated for the entire performance." It was you can put your toilet paper in there and some candles and some one of those scented things that makes.
Was that an Amazon shop?
Yeah, it was.
Somewhere local.
Yeah, it was Amazon. Yeah. It was good. I just searched, bathroom stuff, and that was one of the things that popped up. And we don't have much in the bathroom in terms of decoration, so I thought.
So why not?
I thought "Have a nice poop" would be a good little.
Yep.
Kind of matches our personality, and we like to talk about our dumps and how long it takes, and that's just the way she goes.
We've said it many times before, ladies and gentlemen. Chris has actually said it, brought it up the first time. How the Bouchers don't have a show on Rogers TV, we do not know. That would be A, quality television. We talk about reality TV all the time.
Yeah.
Putting the Bouchers on Rogers TV as a reality show would just be something else. I did not go with the number 2 style gifts. I just got my honey a little nice golf outfit to go golfing, as we're now members at Hillsborough, and I got her a Toronto Blue Jays putter cover as a gift from Riker, because that would have been, he would have been able to pick anything he wanted for his mom, and that's what he would have picked. So that's what we did, and then I cried myself to sleep Sunday night as the Oilers.
My Stanley Cup pick, man. Jeez.
Yeah, a lot of people's Stanley Cup picks, and
especially after the first round, that was.
It's just that's the Bettman world, and he wants 93. He came in. That was the last Stanley Cup champion. I'm not saying he's always against America, but the fact that your Final Four at the time of recording, we're not sure what it is. Could be Vegas, Seattle, which is Bettman's wet dream because it's the last 2 expansion teams, and Carolina and Florida.
Some teams coming home with their first Stanley Cup, right?
Yeah.
It's I shouldn't say first. First?
No, Carolina will be the only team.
Yeah, Carolina.
Florida never won.
Yeah.
And then obviously Vegas and
Seattle.
Dallas has won if Dallas gets there, but we all know Bettman wants this because Vegas and Seattle were gifted opportunities in the expansion draft, and I got to a point where I'm not even mad at the Oilers losing. I'm just disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
We got past LA because of our depth. And look, Vegas is good. Vegas has 4 lines. They circumvented the cap real well so they could add Barbashev and bring back Stone magically the day before the regular season. But not even that. Just the NHL in a whole. I'm just so tired of this game management BS. Like, there's 2 different sets of officials, whether it's regular season or postseason, and you see it across every team. This isn't a Canadian thing. If the Oilers know that Steve Kazari's reffing, he's going to make his impact. And he did on the Broberg penalty, which, yes, it was technically a hold. Eichel was holding his stick. The ref 5 feet away from him doesn't call anything. Steve Kazari makes the call. The Leafs with Wes McCauley. Like, there shouldn't be a standard where NHL refs for certain markets know that they're going to get in trouble. And it's just, it leads to why, sorry for the bit of a rant here, but it leads to why the NHL is the 6th most popular sport in the United States. People are sick of Tom Brady and the Patriots and Mahomes and the Chiefs because they're always on prime time.
Yeah.
The NFL markets their stars. They're sick of the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers because they market the stars. The NHL had a chance last Sunday night to have the 2 best players in the world in a prime time slot as the only NHL game, and they couldn't get a deal with ESPN because they wanted to go to a baseball game, which all 3 of those goals were missed by people down in the States because ESPN stayed with a 9-1 game. They wouldn't go to ESPN2. Oh. They wouldn't trade with TNT, as some of the rumors I saw online. They stayed with that 9-1 baseball game, and people missed 3 of the goals in the first period. So it's just figure out a set and figure out a standard and call it across the board. If it's a penalty, great. If it's not, it's not. But it's just, I'm so tired of this game management crap that you see all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the game, and I realize, it's easy for me to cheer against the Oilers
as it is for me against the Flames.
I'm a Flames fan.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I picked the Oilers to win the Stanley Cup. So it was kind of like one of those sweet. The Oilers aren't going to win the Stanley Cup. Damn it. My Stanley Cup pick's not going to win the Stanley Cup.
Both of yours, because you had Boston too, didn't you?
I had Boston, yeah. So
I still got a horse in the race because I didn't think Florida was going to beat Boston, but I didn't think because of the President's Cup Boston was going to get to the Stanley Cup final. But you had some change in Calgary land.
Yeah.
No more Sutter.
Thank God.
Maybe they bring in Gerard Gallant.
No, it's
maybe like
they
will they promote from within?
I think so.
How can you not? The Wranglers are doing so good.
Yeah, well, Mitch Love has won 2 straight AHL Coach of the Years.
Right.
I just think it's a perfect fit. The only thing that would stop him from getting a job is if they hire the GM externally. If they're hire, if they go and just say, hey, Craig Conroy, take over this team. Craig Conroy will hire Mitch Love in a heartbeat.
Is Craig the assistant in Calgary, or is he running the Wranglers?
I think he's got some sort of a foot in with the team.
Okay.
I don't know what his exact position name is.
Right.
But there's talks of now they're looking at the Leafs assistant GM because he's a cap guru, and they're talking about this guy and then this guy. I'm like, man, like, why are you hiring externally? If you hire externally, you're not going to literally get the best coach available who knows your young players, who will literally allow Jacob Pelche to play.
Yeah.
And Daryl Sutter just had him, eating popcorn, and so it was kind of frustrating.
And you could see the impact Pelche had when he played.
Yep. They were winning.
You can see look at Mackenzie Weegar in the World Championships. What does he got? Like 6 points, and
that's good.
What do you got there?
Blueberry lemonade.
Oh, nice.
From Coldstream Clear in
nice.
Nova Scotia. It's damn good. Not
yeah,
bad.
isn't Mackenzie Weegar like leading Canada in points?
Yeah, he's up there. Yeah,
away from Sutter.
Yeah. So you can tell Sutter was a tremendous coach, but I think I don't necessarily think he lost the room, but there was a reference that I heard, and it's not I can't think of it right now, but it's like when you run out of time, or the players just stop paying attention, right? When you're consistently running the same systems and you don't adapt, the players are not going to change their ways, right? Because if the players go against the game plan, that's going to look bad on the players. It's also going to look bad on the coach. So they were just listening to Sutter and following the game plan, and the team went nowhere. You have Matthew Tkachuk, who's my friggin' Hart Trophy candidate with Florida. And the year before, Huberdeau was putting up crazy numbers. Mac Weegar was putting up crazy numbers. And then they come to Calgary, and they're almost invisible on the ice. So it's clearly the coaching. Tkachuk was great last year, and then got traded to Florida, but he's amazing. He's just a completely different player. So that I'm happy that there's change. I'm excited for next year because they have a team that can win, and it's just they've got to get the right bodies and aces. They got to get the aces in their places. That's the term I like to use because that's what we used to say at when I was a 17-year-old burger flipper at McDonald's. They used to say in rush hours we need our aces in their places, and if you were good at flipping burgers, you were working the grill. If you were good making the burgers, you were on the line. If you were good at taking orders, you were in drive-through. And it's the same thing at sports. It's the same. It's you need to have the right bodies in the right place, and if you do, you're going to succeed.
And we've seen that here. If guys get extended, guys tend to struggle. But a lot of changes in the Canadian markets in the NHL: Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver. Toronto's the biggest one, obviously. So a lot of changes. It's not an NHL podcast, so let's get into some draft talk. Don't forget, as always, you can follow us on the social medias: Twitter, Moncton Wildcast, Instagram, Wildcast Podcast, TikTok, Wildcast Podcast, and of course, like and subscribe right here on YouTube. You asked me to wait for 2 weeks to ask you the quick question.
Yes.
So 2 weeks ago, I said, would you be comfortable moving up to second overall for Denway and Wang?
Yep.
Keeping in mind, it's probably going to, and as the weeks have gone on, I've lightened on this stance, but I'm going to wait for your talk. It's probably going to cost 2 firsts this year, a second or a player this year, a first, and possibly a second next year. And I kind of forgot. Big Como had to make that move then. Chicoutimi does not need to make this move. They can hold Moncton or whoever for ransom. Blainville isn't moving. So I said I was comfortable moving up to do it. What say you?
So off the get-go, I'm going to say flat out no. And I'll kind of there's a few reasons why. If I'm right.
Now is this no for
trading up?
Denway and Huang, or no for trading up in general, whether it's Denway and Gate?
No for in
trading
general.
At all? Okay.
Yeah. So no for Dinwiddie and Gite.
Yeah.
That's a no.
So any trade up to second for any player, you're just
it's
a no.
Okay. If Huang starts to drop because he's a player who's very, very smart in the classroom. From what I'm here, he's like 95s across the board. So very smart kid. So that would clearly draw him south of the border. If he starts to drop, I wouldn't be against putting together a package to trade up and getting him. I just don't see him dropping. He's
you don't
from
think the USHL thing lets him drop a little bit?
No, I don't, because you get Blainville at third, and he's from that area, and I think if you can get him into that market where he's close to home, I think will help the Armada with the recruiting process. You might not see them announce that he's signed a week after the draft, but I think it's going to take some time. I remember when the Wildcats didn't announce the Jordan Spence signing until mid-July.
Yeah.
Right. So there's some players that take their time with these decisions, and I think he's one of them. I don't see a scenario where he gets past Blainville. It's just too perfect of a fit. But you also have to think, well, the Chicoutimi maybe swing for the fences and try to take him at 2. And if he doesn't go there, what team's going to pay the price to get his rights?
Right.
And that's where you kind of look at, okay.
And again, Chicoutimi's got 4 picks in the first round, so they can afford to take a
risk. But I think if they take a risk, they're going to take a risk on Zachary Morin.
At 11 or at 2?
So apparently you can't use a compensation pick
off a lottery selection
to take a player who I forgot how it's worded there, but
right.
If they were to take Zachary Morin with one of their compensation picks this year in the first round and he doesn't report, they're not getting a compensation pick.
Okay,
next
so
year.
Either 12 or 16, I think, is what they have. So they could do 2 or 11.
Yeah, Chicoutimi can afford to take a flyer. So if they take a flyer on Morin, it'll probably be pick 11. Now the reason why I'm not doing it is if I'm kind of in that same mindset, like if I know where the Wildcats are going with their 13th pick, there's a player that I'm targeting that I think would be a perfect fit. So that's why I'm not trading that pick. Pick 18, I think we can all agree it's going to be traded.
13?
18.
Oh, 18. Yeah.
There's rumors that it's going to Bathurst. For what? No idea. But I think
it's got to be a 2-year player.
Yeah, has to be.
If you're giving that up, it's got to be a 2-year player.
So that's the only thing. I'm not making it the trade for that reason. Guite, let him go to Chicoutimi. He's going to light it up there in the big ice, and if Wong starts to drop, maybe, but it's not. I don't see it being a huge need. I'd rather them hang on to at least one of those later picks. Yeah,
and in the heat of getting that first overall pick and having this and seeing the 2 players play, and I'm like, oh, can we get both of them? I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then as I kind of thought about it, which is smart of you to say, wait 2 weeks. You look at 2020. Gatineau had 4 picks in that first round, and they went Leno, Anatomero, Savoie, and Warren. And look what they did in that rebuild. They didn't have to give up a lot of assets to go get core pieces. And I think, like I kind of said 2 weeks ago, when this is the draft that's going to set you up 2 years from now, if you have 3 pieces that hit in that first round, you have 3 very good players that you don't have to spend as many assets down the road. Yeah. And like I kind of said when I re-asked this to you, Baie-Comeau had to give up that pick. Like, McIsaac wasn't coming. They weren't going to pass up on McIsaac. Chicoutimi doesn't have to give up this pick. And I think if they swing with Morin, then you're looking, are you going to try and get up to 3 and 4? Then I think you're going to see Richie on the floor trying to get up to 3 to 4, because you can't get to 5 and hope one of those 2 falls. You got to get up to the next pick after Chicoutimi takes Morin.
Yeah, because you're not. I mean, Wong is just too good, but he's also. I think there's only certain teams that he's willing to play for. Will he go to Val-d'Or? I don't think so. Will he go to Rimouski? Possibly because of what they're building.
Yeah. Caught him and Coughlin.
Yeah.
Pretty good back end.
So if he goes to Rimouski, does he say, okay, well let me go south of the border first, play 1 year there, and if you win the Memorial Cup, I'll sign. Right? That's kind of that's also a attractive piece if you're Rimouski. You say, okay, well, you've got a choice here. We're not going to release you. If you want to play south of the border for a year, go ahead. But the door is always open.
Yeah.
Right? You come calling. I've got you on the next plane.
Yeah.
I don't think there's an airport in Rimouski, but we can find you a way here.
Yeah, and they're shifting the culture, right? Like, Serge is out, so depending on who the coach is moving into there, it's a lot of movement in the top 5 for the lottery, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of movement in the actual draft in the top 5.
Not in the top 5, but I think once you get to that 6th pick, there's talks of Ethan Gauthier going from Sherbrooke to Drummondville.
You think that's going to cost both 6 and 14?
Oh God, yeah. Probably those 2 plus a first next year and maybe a second. it would be a hefty trade because he's got 2 years. It's a 2-year player.
Yeah.
Right? He's not good enough to make the NHL next year. He's not good enough to make the NHL. Well, maybe he is, but if he's
depends where he gets
Drummondville's all in next year if they're acquiring Gauthier,
yeah,
and then they're flipping him at the drafted in next summer. Right? So that's things are
for the 2025 Memorial Cup hosts. Getting him. We don't get him for 2 years, but we'll take him for 1, right?
That's where it comes in. You've got those 2 Drummondville picks that are probably going to be flipped to Sherbrooke, and then from there your whole mock drafts and is just out the window, right? Because it's different organizational needs.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be interesting. I think there's probably going to be 2, 3, maybe 4 trades in the first round, which will just tie things up. Which will probably make the first round. We're already at 20 picks. 4 trades. We'll be lucky if that thing's over by 12:30.
Hopefully they're a little bit faster because they're on the floor, not calling in and stuff like that.
Yeah, we'll be lucky if that first round's over by 12:30.
Starts at 10. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
for fans that are looking to put their rosters together, and we're going to talk a little bit Moncton here, and we're going to get more Moncton actual draft the show before we go to Sherbrooke. But what are some of the teams that people can look at rosters and start picking from? It's obviously the Gatineaus. Sherbrooke seems like they're kind of picked over.
Yeah.
Some of the rumors.
Sherbrooke's going to be dead. I was going to be god awful next season.
Yeah. Quebec.
Yeah.
But I think it's really Gatineau, Quebec. I don't even think it's Halifax because I kind of think they're built for 2 years.
Yeah. Gatineau can still be good next year.
Yeah. Victoriaville's no. Like where should we be looking for roster players? Because I sent you a couple messages from a certain team moving first round picks for a couple guys that I mentioned, maybe 1 or 2 of them to add to our forward depth. But where should fans be looking? Because I mean, you look around us. Chicoutimi's going to be good. Rimouski's going to be on our trajectory. Baie-Comeau's going to be our trajectory. Cape Breton's coming up. Shawinigan.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of teams that go all in and then have to trade assets. Well, Sherbrooke's picked over, so where are we looking?
So get a load of this one. I was driving. I worked in Edmonton a couple weekends ago, and I was listening to Taylor Swift. And when I listen to Taylor Swift, my mind is goes in different directions. I wasn't looking because I was driving, obviously, but I had Gatineau's roster in my mind, and I'm looking at their brand spanking new rink, and I'm thinking they could sell off next season and be just as good a year later to bid on that Memorial Cup. Instead of getting picks, you go and get players for Luneau, Warren, Verreau, Savoie. Instead of going kind of rebuilding the cupboards, instead of rebuilding, you retool.
Just restack them.
And by retooling, you are right there on the same level as the Monktons, the Rimouskis, the Cape Bretons for that 2025 bid. You get a brand spanking new rink, and you want to show it off on national TV, here's your chance. Because if it's not that, there's not another Mem Cup that's going to be around until 2028, and that's 5 years from now. And it's you look at 5 years, that's a full new cycle.
Halifax, Quebec, Sherbrooke's all over again.
Yeah. So you're looking. Gatineau can easily, instead of rebuild, retool, which is a term we heard in Moncton every goddamn year when Roger Shannon was general manager.
How'd that work out?
Rebuilding was not an option. Never rebuild. Retool. Never worked out.
The tear down rebuild seemed to work quite well in those 16, 17.
Yeah.
Long year, but
imagine.
But it also gives Quebec gives the QMJHL a Quebec market to put the Memorial Cup in instead of 3 straight Memorial Cup hosts in the Maritimes.
Yeah. And that's it. Like, do you actually think the Q wants the Memorial Cup hosted in the Maritimes 3 consecutive times? I don't know. That's Moncton's disadvantage.
That's
right.
Yeah.
That's what Moncton is up against with the bidding committee.
Yeah, it's not the rosters. It's the Quebec versus Maritime market.
Mm-hmm. So that's what that's what I thought. I was like, you know what, this doesn't need to be a tear it to the ground rebuild for Gatineau. This can be you trade your 4 top guys, and you're just as good in a year. You know, you might have one down year, but you're right there.
But if those fans, and they're smart enough to know, if it's one down year to have a chance to host a Memorial Cup, they're buying in.
Yeah, like you can think like they could still be in a good position to get Gauthier in a year.
Yeah,
right. Like that's the whole thing you got to look at right now. Gatineau doesn't need to tear it down. You know, they can.
No, they're not a Sherbrooke.
No, Sherbrooke is going to be, dog shirt next year. Yeah. Like they're. I know I said this, but I think I said this about some team a couple of years, maybe this year, about Bathurst, or I said they might only win 12 games, but I was completely wrong. But
yeah, that was Bathurst.
Man, like it's Sherbrooke. It's like if they're trading everything, they are going to have next to nothing coming back, and they have nothing in the cupboards because they've been terrible at drafting recently, and that's what I mean. They're going to want to make a splash, and they've got everything. They've got a lot of ammo to bring to a gunfight at the draft if they want to completely tear it down and get into that first round with 3, 4, maybe 5 first-round picks.
Trying to see what Sherbrooke even had, if they even have any picks next year for the draft, but we'll maybe figure that out for next week. Let's go for some news and notes.
News and notes from around the Q.
All right, so speaking of Blainville, their sale appears to be, on Twitter, I can't remember who it was, their sale appears to be imminent, but they will, one of the conditions was keeping that team in the Blainville area, which hopefully we'll have Cedric on next week. We can maybe talk to him about that, as he's going to help us out with some other Q teams. No more trips to Freddie Beach in August for this classic Sea Dog Wildcat preseason games.
Well, come on.
As there's
always one.
You think they'll keep one?
At least one.
I just figured they wouldn't have any since they're keeping them all. I couldn't find the report before. Actually, I think
there's always one, at least one in Fredericton and one in Bucktouche.
It's usually the first one in Fredericton.
Yeah, something like that. I understand it's gonna be great to have all the preseason games back in St. John, but there's always one in Fredericton. There's always one in Bucktouche. There's always one in what's the other place up north there? Like a Caracat or a Tracadie.
Yeah. I'm just reading. Sorry. The press release that Mike sent to me, and it doesn't say anything about not having a game. I just assumed since they were doing them in St. John, they were going to move them all to St. John. Yeah. But looks like they're getting. Oh, look at that! Season tickets, complimentary tickets to all preseason games.
Imagine.
Huh. Imagine. And they're doing a Sea Dogs Hall of Fame.
Imagine. What's a Hall of Fame? Do we don't have that here?
Absolutely not. And now the Gilles Courteau Trophy Finals has begun. It's 1-1 at the time of recording. I mean, Halifax getting to the finals, down 0-2. They get Dumais out of the lineup, and things just start to click. Imagine getting rid of your MVP, which we said they're going to, that's the thing. They didn't have their MVP. They didn't have full. Well, they didn't really need him. They went 4-0 to beat Sherbrooke, stun Sherbrooke in 6, and they went down. Quebec beat them in game 1, and they came back to even the series in game 2, stealing home ice, which was massive. I mean, I don't even want to say if they didn't win game 2, it might have been 16-0 for Quebec because Halifax was coming home. But I think the most surprising part of the Halifax-Sherbrooke series was they went 0-2 at home and started the run with 2 straight in Sherbrooke, beating Sherbrooke 3 in 4 games at home when that team, I think, lost 6 games all year at home or something like that.
Yeah, that was impressive. I hate to say it, but as a Wildcats fan, you've got to respect what Halifax pulled off. You lose Dumais, and why not? And you're like, oof, those are 2 big losses. Are they going to be able to recover? And they did. Yeah. They seem to after that second loss in Sherbrooke, something happened. It's obviously, unfortunately, Braden McPhee lost his mother after game 2, and I don't know if that's kind of what
brought them together.
It's you win for him, you win for the family, and they to pull off 4 straight against Sherbrooke really was surprised me, surprised a lot of people, and then it's kind of like the thing with Halifax. So it's like game 1s, they're like not there.
Yeah.
They lost to Moncton in game 1. They lost to Sherbrooke in game 1. They lost to Quebec in game 1. And I can't remember.
They didn't play well against Cape Breton. They ended up winning against Cape Breton, but I think they were being outshot 14-4 in the first period. And Cape Breton couldn't find that first one.
It's like they're slow starters to a series, but once they get the wheels in motion, like they're tough to put away.
Yes, and 16-8 were the shots in that game 1 in the first period. And it was still 2-0 Halifax. Like they had been outshot, and
So I mean, full marks to Halifax. I will be the one to sit here and eat the crow on my plate. It's I said many times that Rousseau wasn't the goalie they needed, or they needed upgrade, and he's proving me wrong. I think he's proven a lot of people wrong. And
back-to-back shutouts to close out Sherbrooke.
Yeah, that's
5-0 and 1-0.
Yeah, so that's like I said, I'll eat the crow on that one, and but this is going to be a good series. It seems like Quebec was in full control after game 1, but then they were in full control for the majority of that first period. But then late goals, that late goal by Doucette at the end of the first period was.
And then Zach gets a weird one from a corner.
That was the Lady Mo. The Lady Mo was that late goal in the first period, and that was the turning point in that game. And then now we're back in Halifax for 2 straight sold out games in 15 minutes.
And game 5 is already sold out in Quebec.
Yeah,
looked like an unreal atmosphere. The boys from the Herdcast and Pittsburgh were there, and just that's what you build for. That's why you build. Obviously, we've said it many times. That's an NHL rink. That's, that's a fantastic atmosphere. I've been to one game. It was Shawinigan in Quebec randomly. I was more impressed with that than a lot of games I've been to. Our friend Willie Paloff had an article out today, and Patrick Wall was in there not asking for it but just mentioning, like, why are we playing back-to-back nights in the playoffs, in the finals and stuff like that? And I kind of agree with him. Maybe not for the whole playoffs. But I think once you get to that 3rd round and that 4th round when everyone's kind of beat up, especially the finals, they kind of should be playing a game, a day off, a game. Now that, I literally, Monday when we recorded this, my Facebook status, which, shout out to your wife who had a meme about there's no one I disagree with more than myself on Facebook in 2008. But in 2010, I was like, wow, what a comeback from the Calgary Hitmen over the Wildcats. Now we got to take on Taylor Hall and Spitfires. So you have to have these games. Like, that was May 14th. Yeah, heartbreak, I know. That was, like, the Memorial Cup used to be around the long weekend. Yeah. And now it's getting pushed back even farther and farther. And so I don't know if you can have, I think you should at least try to have a day in between games 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Then 5, 6, 7, do what you got to do depending on travel. But I kind of do agree with Patrick Waugh, especially in the finals.
So it comes back to that stupid extended training camp.
Yeah.
The regular season used to start in friggin' mid-September. And now the regular season's not starting until end of September.
Yep.
That's the difference.
And 68 games.
Yeah. That's the difference. You've got a 2-week difference from when the regular season used to start to where it starts now. And you could, I understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, it's like, well, it's not the NHL here. These just
they're used to it.
The millionaires are the ones that need the day off, right? That's their bodies are more where I'm going with it, right? It's the young players have more energy to play the next day than the millionaires, and I think that's kind of why they're doing it. I can't remember Q playoffs ever having a day off between each game. It's always,
and I think that was kind of his point. Like, why are we in the continuing to do what I think he said, dinosaurs or something, like kind of making that reference, and it's time sensitive because of the Memorial Cup. But I think if you get to the finals, if you could try and put at least the first 4 games just to give a rest, because these are massive games. But again, these kids are used to it. They're playing 68 games, 3 games in 4 nights all year long. And I know that a game May 16th means a little bit more than a game January 10th or November 11th. Well, not November 11th. That's a pretty special game. November 9th. They mean a little bit more. So we'll have to see if maybe the new commissioner kind of leans into that a little bit. But again, that's just one of those things the CHL has to come together and completely agree with. Like something as simple as putting patches on all the jerseys. They can't get that together. I kind of got ripped for that as well, because the OHL is the only league that's doing it. But you want to talk draft? You want to talk to a guest?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right,
good times to do it.
View from the other bench.
All right. Well, again, draft season means we try to bring in guests from around the QMJHL to talk about their team's draft as well. This year in the East, we're gonna go back to Baie-Comeau. We're gonna go to a different Baie-Comeau supporter from Jakar Fanatic. He used to write for the QNews.net, and he was an ISS intern there. David Reed, how are you this evening, Dave?
I'm doing fine, and how are you doing?
Well, it's draft season, so it's Jeremy's season to kind of get things going.
Mine as well. Mine as well. I cannot wait for June 10th.
Perfect. Well, I guess first, are you going to be there in Sherbrooke?
No, unfortunately.
Oh. All right. Well, you can follow.
I have fatherly duties to tend to, so.
The kid doesn't want to go to the draft?
She's 7 months old, so.
No time. No time like the present to start.
Yeah.
So obviously we're going to talk Baie-Comeau. We're going to talk about the East Division. So first of all, thanks for joining us. I guess first question. We're going to look
back. You're very welcome.
We're going to look back before we look ahead to the 7-game series. A war, if you will, between Baie-Comeau, Moncton. Obviously we won't talk about the overtime goal, but just your thoughts on your club going into that 7-game series and coming out of that 7-game series.
Well, I knew right off the bat that it was going to be a hard-fought series. I mean, Baie-Comeau and Moncton were we're very close to each other in the standings, so I knew that it was going to be a long battle, and how right I was. Yeah. 5 games out of 7 going into overtime. I mean, wow, what a series. What an emotional roller coaster it was. I think for both Moncton and Baie-Comeau fans alike. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're right. There was a lot of yelling, a lot of
blood pressure,
a lot of cheering. It was one of those series that you're gonna look back on, down the road and be like, that was fun hockey.
Yeah.
It was one of those series where you hope your team wins, but at the end of the day, you're like, you know what, like it was fun. And you just hope that the team that advances, does what they can in the next round. And well, Moncton got that first win against Halifax.
We did all we could.
That's that was good enough for me. But no, that was it was a month ago, but it feels like it was still last week.
And I was fortunate enough to make it to Game 5, and that was pretty awesome. That was one heck of a game right there. I mean, with the series tied 2-2, so that one almost felt like it was all for all the marbles right there.
Yeah, it definitely to set, like, not a lot sets records anymore with the history of the league, but to set a record with 5 overtime games and just, and both buildings, it took Moncton a while to get their building into it, but Baie-Comeau was full. It looked raucous in there. I know some of the guys aren't a fan of going to Baie-Comeau just because it's a smaller rink and it's intense, and the Q is very thankful in the first round that it had Baie-Comeau and it had Moncton, because the first round was not anything to write home about in terms of any of the series. So I guess, how do you look at your club coming out of that? Is there, fan wise, like, is there excitement coming out of that? Or is there, we need to make a lot of different moves? Like, how do you see your team coming out of this?
I think that, first of all, it's going to be a lot of valuable experience for the younger players, especially like Justin Poirier, but even guys on the back end like Alexis Bernier and Julien Lantier. Those two young defensemen, they ate a lot of minutes in the playoffs, so I think it's going to be very valuable experience for them for the years to come, and they're only going to progress from there. Justin Poirier, like I said, I'm a big fan of his, so already show that he's an excellent regular season performer, and he already showed that he's able to up his game come playoff time. So, yeah, I think that there's a lot of excitement to come. Felix Gagnon, elite face-off man, Isaac Duford, what a captain, what a leader, what a power forward. Man, I love his net crashing style. So, yeah, a lot of exciting stuff to look forward to.
And I guess looking ahead at the to the draft, because I guess this is kind of a draft
show, yeah.
Draft preview show for us. Looking at the order of the first round, Baie-Comeau has the ninth pick, so they're kind of halfway. What do you see their their position needs going in with that pick, or do you even see that pick being used, or do you see it being maybe traded for an asset for next season?
This is based on a personal opinion. I don't think that they're ready to trade for big pieces yet. I don't think that they're ready to trade first rounders for big pieces yet. So I'd prefer seeing that pick being used instead of traded. And like every draft nut, every draft nut, they writes up a mock draft. Am I right?
That's why we call Jeremy Mr. Mock Draft.
And in my mock draft, I have Baie-Comeau selecting Olivier Lampron, a power forward type of player at 9th. Because coach J.F. Gregoire said at the end of his season that he would be looking for offense in the offseason. And I think the only logical choice would be going for a forward with that 9th overall pick.
Yeah, I guess I've got mine in front of me here. I don't have them going with a forward. I went with the small defenseman Xavier Villeneuve, if he likes to come to the Q. I'm not sure if he's kind of in that
interesting
that mindset, but I think he'd be a good complement for what you've got going on back there with Lantier and Bernier. So, but yeah, I had Lampron as the next pick to ruin Aranda. So we're kind of on the same page there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't really see them picking a defenseman. I think in the first round at least, because looking at their defensive squad, I don't think that there's going to be much place on defense for the next season. I mean, on the left side, you've got Fenenko, Lantier, Lavoie. On the right, you have Chouinard and Bernier. Maybe a place for a right-handed defenseman, but yeah, I don't think there's going to be much spots on defense, which is why I saw them going forward.
Mm-hmm.
With a forward, I mean, yeah.
You threw him for a loop. We had
But I mean that's the beauty of opinions. I mean, we're able to discuss them.
Yeah, exactly. And you're the second Baie-Comeau guy we've had on, and it just, all three of these teams in this division minus Quebec are just, they were within 8 points of each other, and with Baie-Comeau, Moncton, Chicoutimi, and Rimouski, and those guys have picks before you. And like I said, when we're going to have you on, we're going to talk a little bit of East. Quebec, they're going to be retooling. We kind of know that. We don't need to worry about them. But you see Rimouski a lot. You see Chicoutimi a lot. Chicoutimi's got 4 picks, 2 and 11, 12, and 16. I mean, for a division that was so tight, what do you see with maybe a Chicoutimi or Rimouski in your division?
Oh man, that is bonkers. 8 points away from each other.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
it's gonna make for good hockey next year.
Yeah. And especially I'm looking forward like 2 years forward, okay? The Baie-Comeau is going to be looking to contend in the 24-25 season. But, I mean, look at the picks that Rimouski and Chicoutimi have. I mean, if they use those picks and they don't trade them and those picks develop into the players that I think they're going to become, I mean, the Eastern Division is going to be absolutely wild. I mean, there's no words to describe it. Mm-hmm. It's going to be nuts. It's going to be bonkers. I mean, already that Chicoutimi had very, very excellent prospects this year in Maxime Massé and Thomas Desruisseaux. Now they have 4 picks this year. I mean, they have everything to build a winning team just from that. And Rimouski, don't get me started on Rimouski. I mean, they also have the picks. They also have the picks to make it happen. I was discussing this with a buddy of mine, but I could see Rimouski maybe attempting to trade those picks maybe for already established forwards. I don't want to start any rumors, but so I won't name any names, but I could see Rimouski trading for them and being a
powerhouse,
a powerhouse as of this year, and only become even more powerful as of next season, especially with the Memorial Cup coming back to the Q. So
that's the thing. You're going to have those same 4 teams kind of competing. Hopefully Moncton can get the Memorial Cup, and then those other 3 kind of competing to represent the Q along with the host. So, obviously a lot of people.
It's going to be wild.
Yeah, no pun intended. A lot of people have Denwayé going to the Wildcats at 1. That seems to be the prevailing opinion. So
I mean, it's a Hollywood scenario, especially with Elliott having played for the team too.
Mm-hmm. So his uncle too, right?
His uncle too. Yep.
Yeah, I thought I read that also.
So Jeremy's got his mock out. Chicoutimi at 2 and Rimouski at 5. Do you have picks there for them?
Well, I don't see how Rimouski could pass over Émile Guité. I mean, one of the best snipers in the draft. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think he'd be a perfect complement for Desruisseaux and Massé going down the road. I mean, that's top line material right there. That's those 3 names, it's something to scare the crap out of opposing teams for years. And at number 5, I don't know. I see if Rimouski doesn't trade it, I think I see them going with a small playmaking type of forward, a la Nathan Lecomte.
Okay.
I mean, champion scorer in the AAA midget, mm-hmm. And I think he'd be a nice compliment for the young players that are already there. I mean, you look at they have Coughlin and Gill on the back end, Paré that they also drafted. So see, that's a nice big 3 right there. Mm-hmm. After that, well, there's Saint Denis, Sprinar, and Coursol. I think they need another forward to complement that group of forwards right there.
So
that's why I see them going with Lecomte.
Just out of curiosity, who would you, if you have Moncton taking Desnoyers and Chicoutimi taking Guité, who do you have at 3 and 4 with Blainville and Val-d'Or?
Okay, so at Blainville, well, considering that they drafted forwards in the first round these past few drafts, I see them going with a defenseman, and who better than a local product in Alex Wong.
Yeah, that's right.
And at Val-d'Or, I don't know. I kind of went off the board a bit, but there's one player that I really liked, and that I found that he progressed as he continued progressing as the season went on, and that's Sean Carrier. I don't know. Hey, I really like him. If he dropped to 9th, I'd be ecstatic, honestly. But I don't think that's going to happen. He's just too good, and he had just too much of a good progression over the season. So
No, it makes for the sake. I guess for the sake of transparency, I'll read my top 5.
Subject to change by June 5th.
Yeah. So.
If only you knew how many times I changed my mock draft over the last week.
So yeah, we're on the same page there with 1, 2, and 3. I actually have
everyone's on the same page.
Yeah. I actually have LeConte going to Val-d'Or. And I have Rimouski taking Matteo Nobert from Lac Saint Louis.
Wow!
Just for the sake of transparency there. So
that'd be lethal for Rimouski.
Yeah.
Well, it'd be lethal in Rimouski and lethal for other teams.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah. So I don't think LeConte. I think the whole reporting thing. I don't think Nobert will go to Val-d'Or. That's just a personal opinion.
I forgot. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, so it's like the whole
Lac Saint Louis, right?
Yeah, they seem to have a what's the term here? What's the word that I'm looking for?
A preference for the NCAA.
Preference. They also have. There's another word that I'm looking for.
That they don't want to go to Val-d'Or?
No, it's like they.
Swagger?
Not swagger. Oh my God! It's right on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of it. But
our fan listeners are yelling at their radios right now.
But yeah, you're right. Preference, right? They're the players who can choose where they want to go, just because it's kind of that. It's like that more. It's the more of a bilingual. Probably the more bilingual
option,
market, right?
Yeah.
It's so that's where I don't think he goes to Val-d'Or, but I think he.
Oh, that's a very valid point. Yeah.
I think he would go to Rimouski just based on what they're building.
Well, and on the pedigree too. I mean, as a franchise, I mean, look at the players that went through that played for the team. I mean, just getting a chance to play for the same team as Sidney Crosby or Vinny Lecavalier. I mean. Mm-hmm. That's a once in a lifetime chance. So,
I guess before we let you get out of here, we got the Q draft and then we get the import draft. Obviously, Malofsky was Jeremy's Rookie of the Year pick, and he was one of the 2 dynamic players that Moncton had to worry about shutting down in that first round series. But obviously, I'm assuming he'll be back. Nikas Fanenko, do you think he'll be back, or do you think Baie-Comeau passes on both import selections, or do you think they kind of maybe make one and see who kind of wants to report?
I don't know. This is a really hard one. I love Malofsky
I didn't
as a
bring
player.
This one to you, so.
Pardon?
I said I didn't prep you with this question, like that I was going to bring the import draft into, so I apologize.
No, that's perfectly fine. Okay, but like I said, I love Malofsky as a player, but the problem is the 2 current imports that Baie-Comeau have do not fit with their current cycle. I mean, they're going to be contending for the 24-25 season, as I mentioned, except that they're both going to be overage. They're both going to be overagers at that age. Baie-Comeau's not going to keep 2 overage imports. Right. So I think that they should probably try to trade one away, whoever brings in the most value, and draft at least one, at least for this year, so that the said import can fit with the team's cycle.
Yep, we'll take Malofsky.
I'd rather make a pick.
He doesn't fit our cycle either.
I'd rather make a pick.
Yeah. That's
well, yeah, that's it. I'd rather make a pick too. I'd rather make a pick but try to trade one of them away. I don't know if everyone is going to agree with me on this, because I know that Malofsky and Fanenko are loved in the Baie-Comeau fan base. I love them too, but like I said, you need to think about when the team is going to contend and not in the near future.
Yeah, because they take up, unless 2 years down the road the Q changes the 20-year-old rule somehow, and 20-year-old goalies don't count to it, or you're like whatever they do, but you got to look at that because they take up 2 roster spots for a 20 and a Euro, and that's.
Yep.
I mean, if you keep both of them, a forward and a defenseman, you're really hamstrung your group for veteran leadership. So
exactly.
Yeah, man, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for joining us tonight. Fans of Baie-Comeau obviously know where to find you, but anybody listening that wants to get your opinions on other teams, just where can they find your info?
On Twitter I have my main account. I guess that it's now my main account, called Drakkar Fanatic. And if not, well, I don't have much fan pages or blogs or anything. So Instagram is my Instagram handle is MasterRead39, but I don't post any hockey stuff on there. So it's mostly going to be on Twitter, Drakkar Fanatic.
Drakkar Fanatic.
And it's gonna be mostly about Drakkar information, but I mean fans of the other teams who are interested in knowing my opinions on other teams can hit me up without a problem, and it'll be my pleasure to discuss with them.
You and you're not affiliated, that's the wrong word, but you and the Drakkcast, do you guys communicate on things? Like, you guys work together on different opinions, or are you two kind of separate?
No, we spoke we spoke a few times in the past, but I mean it's been a while since him and I have hooked up.
Oh, okay.
I personally would like to converse with him more, but I don't know if he's a bit too busy or anything, but yeah, I definitely like to do. I definitely like to collaborate with him in the future. Yeah.
All right, Louis William, you heard it here. He wants to communicate. You guys put a Zoom podcast together and get a Big Como podcast. Let's fill this league with podcasts. You down for that?
I'm sure we've hit it off.
Yeah, except for the you got the love for Bay Como and the disdain for Moncton after 7 games, so you guys should get along just fine.
No, my disdain was just in the moment. I mean, it passed.
Hey, man, we'd have had the exact same disdain the week after on our platform. So, like we said many times, we understand how you guys would feel because we'd feel the exact same way. But again, this is a lot of fun. Hopefully, we can do this again, maybe in the off season, and definitely.
I had a blast.
All right, well, you enjoy the draft, and we'll catch up another night.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me once again.
So,
I thought we had the same. I thought we had the same Bay Como guy. I was like,
yeah,
who's this David guy? Wasn't his name with Louis?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, okay.
They did seem kind of similar, voice wise, but definitely you can tell the fan part of it. Just he's excited for that division, and that's going to be one of the better divisions, not only next year, but and we said it, like Moncton's competing for 25, and that we could see Bay Como and Moncton in a third round or a final down the road. Draft wise, anything he caught you off guard with, or just kind of
interesting
looking
that
from afar?
Yeah, the Sean Carrier Valdor. That's it's not off the board. I just
8th overall. Yeah,
I just think there's a better option there for Valdor. And the small, they need, what that team needs is a player who's going to have a similar impact to what an Alexandre Doucette or a Justin Robida had in Valdor, and I think that's Nathan LeConte. I think he's like Alexandre Doucette. He is a game breaker.
Oh, you mean progression?
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking like they need a 20-year-old like a.
No.
Doucette, you mean draft?
They need a game breaker. Carey is a good player. Like he loves the game. Like he's one of those always smiling, loves the game, works hard, but they need offense. Yeah. They need someone who's going to put the puck in the back of the net, that's going to be a leader from day one, and that's Nathan LeConte, which is why I have him as my pick going to Valdor.
Yeah, and they're kind of in that same situation that we are with Barbashev, except we're not going through it with an all-in year where you got a 20 and a Euro. I mean, if you're going to do that for someone, Malofsky, by the time he's 20, you're keeping that spot, and you're hopefully moving on from Fanenko and seeing what you can get for him, maybe for a team, a 5-6 defenseman in an all-in type year with an open roster spot. So, Shakutami or Muski, anything jump out at you there?
No, we're pretty much on the same page.
I think a lot of people have those 3 players going 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, Guite and Wong are kind of those, and Dinoyer, Guite, and Wong are probably your 1, 2, 3s. I would be surprised if it's not LeConte at 4, going to Valdor. I think it kind of starts at 5. I think that's where things can really take a crazy wild turn.
That was going to be my question. Quick question next week. Where does the draft start? Does it start at 4? Does it start at 5? Does it start at 6 with the trade? You answered that.
It's. I think No Bear fits perfectly with Rimouski, and David covered all the same, playing in that same organization as Crosby and the Cavalier and Brad Richards and that and Lafreniere. They've got that opportunity to host. It's a very attractive market right now. So yeah, I really think it starts at 6. Will that Drummondville pick be traded? And if so, is it going to Sherbrooke for Gauthier, or is it going to Gatineau for maybe a Luneau? There's a couple options that can go there, or maybe Drummondville somehow pulls off the Gauthier trade and Sherbrooke gets 6, and then Gatineau gets their later pick for Luneau or something in that area. Who knows? But Drummondville seems to be a team that they're focused on winning next year, and they're going to make the moves to make sure it happens. So they're a team to watch at the draft for sure.
And that is one of the names that I spoke about off the record that I wouldn't mind having here for a couple of years, especially if we're.
Yeah, the price is too high. I'm not ready for it. I'm not paying. If I'm not paying for Gauthier next season, I'm not paying for Luneau. So
no.
In my opinion.
All right. Well, I've got your quick question for next week within the next 2 weeks already. So I'll have to save that one up. But yeah, that's it for us. That was a fun first draft episode. We're back in 2 weeks now. So again, a big thanks to David Reed from Drakkar Fanatic for joining us to talk Baie-Comeau, as well as a little bit of the Eastern Division there. We are back in 2 weeks. We're looking to have Cedric from Blainville to talk about the Armada and maybe some of the Western Conference Quebec teams. See if there's maybe a scenario where they move back to get some assets, because that's a team that they were built with Gay and Lawrence, and then that just once Patrick Gay went pro and then they didn't have Lawrence, they kind of emptied their cupboards to get those players. Is there a scenario where they move back instead of adding said one player? As well, don't forget we will be live in Sherbrooke for the draft June 9th and 10th. We're doing the media roundtable again on that Friday night. That's the hope anyways. So tune into that probably on the YouTube if I can make it happen. But yeah, that's it for Jeremy. I'm Adam. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Wildcast Podcast. Follow us on social media at Moncton Wildcast.